He's a writer, recipe developer, video series host, and producer for New York Times Cooking, as well as the co-creator of Cookie Week. Hey everyone, I'm Cappy and welcome to Beyond the Plate. This is a podcast where we sit down with the world's culinary elite to explore their journey into the food industry and the social impact they have made in their communities. If you're new to the pod, welcome. If you've listened before, we're glad you're back. If you're just tuning in, don't miss Heard, our short audio newsletter that comes out every other Monday, right here on Beyond the Plate. I'm sharing what's on my plate, from culinary insights to restaurants and recipes, all in just a few minutes. This week, we're bringing you a live episode we recorded in front of a standing room only audience at the Bookseller bookstore in Chicago. I had the absolute pleasure of moderating a conversation with Vaughn Vreeland of New York Times Cooking about his new book, Cookies. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode as we go beyond the plate with Vaughn Vreeland.
Awesome. Wow! This is so exciting. This is the last stop on the tour, so we're going to have some fun tonight, all right?
First of all, thank you to Susie and the Bookseller for hosting this event tonight. Round of applause. Thank you for representing local bookstores and being champions of authors like Vaughn. So we appreciate it. And before I take my seat really quickly, I have a podcast that I do called Beyond the Plate that I will be recording this for a bonus episode soon. We sit down with chefs, restaurateurs, food personalities, bartenders from all over the world to talk about their journey into the food industry and how they give back to their communities. We started that podcast to shine a light on the industry and the extraordinary people in it and that make it up and that give back. And Vaughn is one of those people that's part of that incredible community. So when I received the phone call to moderate this discussion, I was thrilled because I've been following Vaughn's trajectory. He's incredibly talented. It seems like half of you are best friends with him already. Whether you know him or not, it seems like you are, and I love that. He's very talented. What he does is not easy. Working with Rachel Ray for 19 years, seeing her in front of and behind the camera, it's not an easy thing to do, and he does an incredibly good job bringing content to life on all the platforms that we watch him. So without further ado, I'm going to put my podcast hat on. It's already on, and warm us up a little bit because I like to start with hearing about childhood memories and things that inspired people and helped shape them. And so, Vaughn, for you, I want to have you share some tastes or smells that remind you of your childhood as it relates to baking.
Oh, that's a great question. So, I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and my grandma lived just down the road in Durham. And so I feel like Nanny, as we affectionately called her, was a huge part of me learning how to bake. I mean, if you've watched videos or read part of the book, I kind of do owe it all to her. She was just this iconic matriarch. So when you said like smells that remind me of growing up, I was like, well, Chardonnay, but I don't know if I can say that. I kind of have painted her as this like big lush, which she was a little bit, but like in a fun way, in an inappropriate way. You know, I think definitely it's not a baking smell, but the smell of collards on the stove was such a huge part of growing up. Like there was always collards on the stove. Nanny grew collard greens in her backyard and like washing them was awful. But I would say for me, the big like scent memories, especially around the holidays, would be my mom always boils this mixture of like orange with cloves studded in it. I see some nods out there, cinnamon sticks, a little apple cider. And that's something that like really gets me going. It's like, okay, time to put on the slippers and the Hallmark movies are coming out. Like I am ready. And aside from that, you know, just like we have a lot of gently spiced cookies in North Carolina. Moravian cooking is a really big thing. We have this famous bakery in North Carolina called Dewey's Bakery, which specializes in Moravian cookies that are kind of like speculoos style cookies. So those we would always kind of have either baking or on the table for parties, tailgates, whatever. And that would be a big scent memory for me too. The classic like fall spices, I think is kind of where I'm going. And Chardonnay.
So for those of us who don't know, tell everyone what you do.
Gappy, I'm still figuring that out myself.
Same, but
Okay, well, so I started my career behind the camera. I went to school to study film, and I was a double major with French, which is like, every parent's dream to have a French major in the family. And after I graduated, I didn't really know what to do. I applied for this program to do a gap year in Southeast Asia, and I got it. We weren't leaving until October. I needed a job, so I worked at a bakery. And that is kind of one of the big things that got the wheels turning in my head. I really love French pastry. I studied abroad in the south of France, and I worked at this bakery where we specialized in macarons. And I just got like enamored with the process of making these like delicate, silly little French cookies. And I then just watched a lot of YouTube videos about how to make them. That was like a really cool thing for me, was not only learning how to make them, but also the video process behind it. So when I got back from my gap year, I worked at the bakery again for a few months. And then I decided I wanted to move to New York. I didn't have a job. I just moved up there. My dad and I went from North Carolina to New York City. We stopped in Atlantic City. He gambled my first month of rent, kind of as a joke. And thankfully we broke even. But yeah, I mean, I had saved up to move up there. I knew it's what I wanted to do. And I hit the ground running. And then I started working at BuzzFeed. I found this job as a fellow, which is a very fun title for someone that they pay very little. And I started working there. And then within about 6 months, I became a full-time employee. And then I started doing more long-form content for them. If anybody remembers the like tasty videos, the very fast, sped up, hands and pans Facebook videos, I made those. And in the beginning, a lot of those recipes were not very well tested. If you remember like cheeseburger bombs and those types of things. But then we actually had a culinary person that was hired, and I started to work with her much more closely. And I got a lot of like really intense culinary training from that. And I think just being behind the camera, working with chefs, I forayed that career into being a video journalist at the New York Times, where my job was kind of to start the video team there. And during the pandemic, I didn't have anyone to film. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just film myself. As a Leo, it's my greatest delight to put myself in front of the camera. And then that's also when I started featuring Nanny in a lot of my videos. I did just like iPhone shot videos and stuff. And by December of that year, they had asked me if I wanted to start developing recipes. So I started developing recipes. My first recipe was actually Cookie Week. If anybody here is a fan of Cookie Week. Yes, a little teaser. My first recipe was for eggnog snickerdoodles, which, Forrest, I think your mom was talking about. The eggnog snickerdoodle was my first recipe for the New York Times. So I guess to a very long-winded way of saying, started behind the camera, video production, and about 6 months ago, I became a full-time writer, columnist, and video host for the New York Times.
Love it. Is the eggnog snickerdoodle recipe in this book?
It is. Oh, of course.
I know you cook, but what do you love most about baking?
Ooh, to me, I think baking is my way of just like abandoning all my worries. I think for a lot of people, baking can be very stressful because it's like such a scientific thing. I meet a lot of folks who are like, I'm not a baker. Like I get so stressed. Everything has to be so precise. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like if you fail, at the end of the day, it usually still tastes pretty good. Like it might not be perfect. And I think that that's something that I also love the most about baking particularly is it's taught me to be less of a perfectionist because it's never going to be perfect. I've learned to love the imperfections. And I think that's also why I love baking, because it is something that is so traditionally seen as very precise and very type A. And to take that and flip it on its head and to make it a type B experience, I love that.
Is there something specific you love baking?
I mean, I used to hate pie. Pie has made a fool of me so many times. But now I love it. Last year I did like the big pie thing for the New York Times. I made about 80 pies in my tiny 1-bedroom apartment. I have a half oven. I've got basically a half refrigerator freezer. And I was just like slinging those things on Jane Street. I was like, who wants pie? Because I cannot fit it in my apartment anymore. So now I do love pie because I think it's like Elphaba and Glinda, We were forced to live together in tight quarters. And like at first there was loathing, unadulterated loathing. But then by the end, we became best friends.
Oh, so good. So good. All right. Tell us about cookies and how you helped personally shape the book.
I was actually asked to write cookies about maybe a year and a half ago, maybe a little over a year and a half ago, by Emily Weinstein, who's our great editor-in-chief. She came to me and she was like, do you have 5 minutes? Which is a very scary thing for her to say to you, but she's wonderful. And we went into a room and got on a call with somebody who does kind of like our external partnerships. And they said, hey, we sold a book. And we want it to be about cookies and we want you to write it. And I was like, that's so crazy. I am at this point still a video producer. I'm kind of like the supervising producer, so I'm leading the video team. But I've had a few years of recipe development and a little bit of writing under my belt. I wrote a Cookie Week newsletter. I still do write a Cookie Week newsletter. Cookie Week was really kind of the impetus for this book. I think it was a big kind of vote of confidence for New York Times Cooking to see this thing that kind of grew into something bigger than itself. Like it's got events, it's got obviously the videos that come out, it has the newsletter, it has the big print section. And so this kind of multimedia experience was something that they wanted to harness and channel it into a book. And so once we learned that we got the rights to the book, I basically just had kind of carte blanche. I was just given a lot of free reign. I had a wonderful person helping me, Trish, to look through all like 1,000+ cookies that we have on New York Times Cooking. And we just had them in a big spreadsheet. We started looking at them and like that meme of the woman who like is looking off in the distance with the math equation behind her. That's like me looking at a spreadsheet because I'm a creative. And I was like, okay, so let's nix this one. Let's keep that one. And then we like narrowed it down to about 500. And then that's when I was like, okay, it's starting to take shape. Let me create a table of contents. Like I know I have like different categories here that I can work with. We have so many chocolate chip cookies. I have to do a chocolate chip cookie chapter. We have tons of spiced cookies. We have tons of holiday cookies. Like those are the ones that are obvious. What are some of the ones that are a little less obvious? Like colorful and crafty, fun, fruity, and tart. I really wanted a chapter named Fun, Fruity, and Tart so that so that we could make merch that says fun, fruity, and tart.
100%.
And we did do both of those things. And we do have merch, and I'm going to wear fun, fruity, and tart merch for the rest of my life because I am fun, fruity, and tart. And so anyway, that was kind of the big process of getting asked to write it and then kind of how it came to be. I mean, there's obviously all sorts of details in there that I'm missing, but...
Is it cookies for all baking levels?
Yes. That is a big thing that's important to me, kind of in general. Like with my newsletter that I write and everything, I want to kind of break down the barriers to entry for everyone. There's cookies that can be ready in under an hour. There's cookies that can be ready with 4 ingredients. And then there's projects. I think that one of the most important quotes that I always kind of keep in mind when I'm thinking about recipes and developing, and especially with this book, is like basically kind of how I want to approach an audience, right? There's a very famous editor-in-chief of Vogue named Diana Vreeland. I am not a Nepo baby. There are people on TikTok who call me a Nepo baby. I'm not a Nepo baby. Diana Vreeland had this really great quote was, you're not supposed to give people what they want. You're supposed to give them what they don't know they want yet. And I think my goal is to ultimately make people better bakers. I want to kind of push them outside of their comfort zone, but then sometimes you need to be in your comfort zone. I think especially in times like these where like kind of every day is outside of your comfort zone, it's nice to come back to things that are comforting. So if you can have things that are familiar to you, but then also have things that might open your mind to new experiences, that's what I want in a book. And that's what I want in recipes.
I love it. Can you give a high level view on the process? Like pick a cookie. Like what's the process of that cookie to book?
Oh, I mean, that's a great question. So it kind of depends on the cookie. There are some that I developed specifically for the book because they filled a gap, right? Like fun, fruity, and tart, for example. We didn't have a lot of fun, fruity, and tart cookies. We actually, this was an interesting kind of sidebar, but which is ironic. You'll understand why in a minute. We weren't going to include bars in the book. So we had a big conversation with the publisher about whether bars were cookies. Do we think bars are cookies?
Yeah.
We do think bars are cookies. Okay, wow. Austin thought no. That's the difference between the North and the South, I guess. But Yes, I think bars are cookies too. So we originally weren't allowed to include bars in the cookie book. And we were
Per the publisher?
Per the publisher. Okay. So whereas I said sidebar, that would have been a cute thing. But we were gonna publish this thing called Barred from the Book. Yeah, it was like a little zine that went along with the book. It ended up that we didn't have enough cookies to fit some of these categories, like colorful and crafty, like fun, fruity, and tart. So we had to then include bars, which became more fun for me because it just that's more fun. But, the blueberry lemon almond cookies, for example, I knew that I wanted to do something that was kind of in that vein. We have a really popular pound cake by Yotam Ottolenghi, blueberry lemon almond pound cake. And I was like, what if we made that into a cookie? And I just look up to Ottolenghi with everything. And I was like, that would be really cool. So that was a process where it's pitched to the recipe team, it's pitched to the book editors. And then once it's approved, which sometimes takes a little long, then I get into the kitchen and I usually test cookies about anywhere from 7 to 10 times, sometimes more. I have a half oven. So whereas you might be in Chicago or the suburbs able to fit a cookie sheet into your oven, I cannot. So I then have to kind of think about that. Like sometimes I'll take cookie dough to my friends' apartments who have real ovens and do that. But yeah, once I have the recipe down pat, I want to make it 2 or 3 more times just to make sure that it works. And then it gets tested by a recipe tester who is a home cook. And then we photograph it, which is kind of another way of testing it. And then we shoot the video, which is another way of testing it.
Did any get a bad review when you were testing?
No. Not to be like,
you should.
I mean, definitely there's feedback on things. Like when they were photographing the salted butterscotch chocolate chunk cookies, which is my favorite cookie from the book. Just did a video on it, did my newsletter on it. They were spreading a lot. And I was like, oh no, it's a really pretty cookie. And I really wanted to photograph well. So we had to kind of workshop why the food stylist didn't chill the dough long enough was basically why. But ultimately those things happen and they were still tasty. But no, I mean, I ultimately didn't end up developing too many things specifically for the book because we had such a great pantheon of recipes to choose from.
Are there any cookies holding a grudge against you right now for not making it into the book?
Oh my God, yes. And probably people who are holding a grudge against me for not being in the book. There were some that were really similar. You would be so shocked at the amount of lemon bars that the New York Times Cooking has. There are so many, and to winnow that down to just 1 or 2 was really tough. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to name names. I'm not
fair.
I'm not trying to get canceled out here, Kathy.
Okay, so we hear things like soup season or summer grilling season. Is there such thing as cookie season?
I think now is cookie season.
No.
The time is now. I do think that there is a cookie season. I genuinely think that fall baking is the time, but I think specifically probably mid-November through the end of the year is cookie season.
All right, can you share your top 3 tips when it comes to cookie baking?
Oh yeah. Okay, well, this sounds so obvious and I whenever people ask me for tips, I hate saying this, but you would be so shocked at the amount of people that don't do this. Read the recipe. Read the recipe before, read every step of the recipe before you start baking it. I think there are so many people out there who will read the ingredients and then they'll mise out the ingredients. They'll put all of the measurements into specific bowls. But then, sometimes one step of the recipe will say, use half of that flour and then reserve the other half for something else. And then you're like, oh wait, I already measured this out. So read the recipe. I would say definitely invest in a good cookie sheet. I think that a lot of people, my mother included, have these really, let's just say rustic cookie sheets that are paper thin, that don't conduct any heat. Their cookies burn all the time. Don't know your oven. Having an oven thermometer is also a big thing, I would say too. But a nice cookie sheet, it doesn't have to be expensive. Restaurant supply store cookie sheets, I would say that's a big thing for me. The last one, yes, I could say take your time, cream your butter and sugar. You all know that. You're here. Find a trinket or a song that gets you excited to be in the kitchen. I have a little, tiny little voodoo doll, in the corner of my kitchen that I love. That just it's not real voodoo, but it's I got it in New Orleans and it's very fun to look at. And then I always put on the Waitress soundtrack. If anybody here is a Broadway fan. Oh, I knew I was with my girls. We're having good company. I always put on what baking can do, and that just like gets me in the mood to bake. I think just like finding something that makes it fun. Yeah. Like that's ultimately what baking should be. It shouldn't be stressful. Like it's about sharing, it's about love, and it's about being able to like, you know, turn your brain off for a little bit.
Yeah. I was wondering if you have a tip, which maybe the read the recipe helps, when you are like, all right, let's go. Wait, room temperature butter and room temperature eggs. Like now I gotta wait.
Oh, I am the least patient person in the entire world. I am trying to maximize my time wherever possible, which if you make a lot of my recipes, you'll probably see that. But yes, if your butter is from the refrigerator, you can put it in the microwave for 15 seconds, check it, turn it 180 degrees, 5 more seconds, check it, 5-second bursts until it is like, there's a difference between softened and room temperature, by the way. Softened, you can press down with an indentation. Room temperature is about 65 to 70 degrees. So it should still probably be a little cold to the touch. Anyway, that's another important tip. If you don't have a microwave, you can heat a bowl up with hot water and then just plop it upside down over the stick of butter. It should be soft soon. Or in an apron, I've seen pastry chefs do that. Like put the wrapped stick of butter in their apron and just like the residual, like the body heat, which like is kind of gross, but whatever. Eggs, I always do this. I'll put it in a Pyrex glass measuring cup and I will fill that with hot water. And the hot water, like pretty gently, I would say, unless your water is very, very hot in your house or apartment, will gently raise the temperature of the eggs to room temp.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask him one more question, but we are gonna do a Q&A, so get your good questions ready. You may have semi-answered this, but before we go, if you could only eat one flavor cookie, which would you choose?
Oh, this is so tough. It's like Sophie's choice. She liked that over there. I would say, oh God, that's so tough because I mean, I'm a chocolate fiend. But then I get so like existential and like kind of esoteric when I'm like answering these types of questions. I'm like, wait, but if I were on an island, like would I want to eat that? I think maybe, yeah. Like a chocolate coconut number, like a Samoa Girl Scout cookie. Ooh. I think I could eat every day. I love really? Those cookies. Yeah. What is yours?
I was that kid who, growing up when I went to Baskin Robbins, I got the flavor of the month.
Oh.
Like strawberry shortcake or pumpkin pie or eggnog. I never got
the one thing.
Yeah. And so I go for like the kooky flavors. Although I love a classic oatmeal raisin. I think I'd almost take an oatmeal raisin over a chocolate chip. I know those are fighting words, sorry. But
I like an oatmeal raisin too. When you were answering that, I was like, you basically just asked me a question that you cannot answer.
True.
Which is the tea. But no, I mean, I don't know if I were to choose something. I love lemony flavors. Yeah. I don't think that's anything that I could tire of.
Yeah.
But I also like a soft, chewy cookie. Yeah. I couldn't eat a shortbread every day. Right. My mouth would be like a desert.
Yeah.
So sorry to say, shortbread is a little too dry and crumbly for me sometimes.
Yeah.
I like a soft, chewy cookie.
Yeah, agreed. Love it. You're amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Hey everyone. After this, we moved into an audience Q&A. The questions were so good. I restated each one during the taping so they'd be crystal clear for you listening at home. Questions from you all fine people. I saw you first. The first question was, what would you bring to a cookie exchange if you wanted to win?
Is it a competition? I was going to say, that's a good question because I'm very competitive. I have won twice this one cookie competition with the chewy brownie cookies, but if it's for the holidays, do the peppermint version. Add peppermint extract instead of the vanilla extract. We wanted to actually, that's another one that I was sad to not include. I wanted to include both, but it's basically the same cookie. So I did a little note at the bottom to say, if you wanted to make this, then you crush candy canes, put those on top. The chewy brownie cookies are like, I think, a big crowd pleaser. The gingerbread latte cookies too. I'm thinking so like good. Holiday cookies. Yeah.
The next person asked, how did you decide on the cover of cookies? How did you pick the cookie and how did you pick the colors?
Such a good question. We had lots of discussion about this. So you'll see this cookie and then you'll see this cookie. And we had a couple other cookies. Basically, we chose the double chocolate chunk cookie because we really wanted a very colorful graphic title. And this looked way better on the dark background of the dark chocolate than it did on this cookie. So that is why this is the cookie on the cover. I mean, aside from it being like a very highly rated cookie, and a favorite of a lot of NYT staff. I mean, who doesn't see this cookie and like be like, that looks amazing? I will say I did have to there were a lot of discussions about the use of bright colors in this book.
Really? In what sense?
I just really wanted to like subvert the like black, white, and red all over narrative of a newspaper.
Was that a stretch?
And so this was something that took a long time.
Wow.
Orange is my favorite color, so they did this without a cover, which was really fun.
And then we talked a little about the table of contents. Obviously, the visuals are really striking in this.
And then my favorite thing, though, I think our graphic designer, Deb, is amazing. But the best thing in this entire book is the table of cookies. It's so good. We're thinking about making it into a poster, so hopefully you all could have one of those. But yeah, we just wanted it to be fun, you know? As Emma Stone says in Cruella, we wanted to make art. We wanted to make trouble.
I saw a hand in the back. Yeah. Next, have you had a cookie that really blew your socks off in Chicago or any other that you wanted to mention?
That's a great question. I actually went to this place today called Kismet, and they had a really nice salted chocolate chip cookie. Okay, I stayed at this hotel in Austin that had fresh baked cookies in the lobby every day. And they're not like putting me up at the Ritz-Carlton, by the way. It's like, very like middle of the road hotels, but they had fresh baked cookies, and they had this one that was like a coconut chocolate chip. If you're ever in Austin, stay at the Hotel Zaza. Just as fun to stay at as it is to say.
And then I'm curious, from behind the scenes, do you have any cookie styling tips?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is my favorite cookie styling tip. Especially for ones like the salted butterscotch chocolate chunk cookie. It's got homemade toffee in it. Toffee is like just unpredictable in the oven, right? Like it can spread, whatever. If you have these things called pastry rings, which is like a little circular cake cutter, or you could take a glass like this, and if your cookies come out wonky, then you turn it upside down over each individual cookie while it's still warm on the sheet tray, and then you circle around it a lot. And then the cookies come out perfectly circular, just like that. And that is what all the food stylists do to basically any cookie you will see. I mean, these are perfectly round. I don't know if they did those to them, but yeah, that is like the big tip. Also, another tip I would say is that people tend to this is more of like a flavor texture thing, but people tend to kind of overbake their cookies. Like use the indication on the recipe, but I usually take it off or take it out of the oven like a minute or two before it's done, because it'll continue to cook on the sheet tray.
How do you feel about ice cream scoops for portioning?
Oh, 1000%. The frustrating thing about writing a recipe, especially for cookies with ice cream scoops, is that they are all different sizes. Yeah. Every brand is a different size. OXO is a different size than the ones you get at Williams-Sonoma, than the ones you get at a restaurant supply store. There is no standard for them. Even in the ones that are like very similar are still a little bit different, which is kind of frustrating.
The next person asked, who's someone in the cooking world right now that you look up to and you're very excited by what they're doing and why?
Oh, that is a really good question. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been, like, my eyes have been opened a lot to more people on social media than before. I think, like, in the past, because it's been my job, my algorithm was not necessarily cooking focused. But now that I'm more of, like, a reporter, a writer, I actually really do like engaging with creators a lot more in the food space than I have before. I think Justine Snacks does a lot of really cool stuff. I loved following along her, like, making her own wedding cake thing. Grand Baby Cakes is one of my favorite creators. I love following her and her journey. Jocelyn Adams, she's great. And I always love Claire Saffitz. Like, I gotta shout out Claire. She's amazing. We did a talk at our talk in New York, and she's just so brilliant. Everything that she says just like blows my mind. I'm like, you are so smart and cool and fun.
Then someone asked, what was the hardest thing in all the recipe testing you were doing to control for or test when you're doing the recipe development to make sure that it's going to be successful for a home cook?
That's a wonderful question. I think oven temperature, everyone's oven is very different. And like not everyone is willing to buy a $10 oven thermometer, which like totally understandable. I didn't have one until a few years ago myself. But like, yeah, I think oven temperature is something that is wildly different in everybody's apartments or homes. Like my oven runs about 50 degrees hotter, which is a huge difference. I think like putting faith in people that they're gonna make the recipe as written is a big thing too. I do have that faith, but yeah, Yeah, I think that's a big one. I think also, yeah, like cookie spread is a big thing. I think sometimes people want to rush the process or put too many on a sheet tray at one time. And if you put too many cookies on a sheet tray at one time, they will all run together. And then people will be mad at you.
Is there a rule of thumb for chilling a cookie dough versus not?
That is a good question. You know, it really does depend on the cookie. And I know that's like a frustrating answer, but these cookies right here are the chewy brownie cookies. You don't chill them. Like you do not chill this dough because you want them to be shiny. You want them to have those like nice cracks on the top, which whoever did, you said that the people across the street did the chopping block. Yeah. They did a wonderful job with these. They look so beautiful. And that is something that you want to scoop and then bake right away. I would say anything but that's also a looser dough. Like anything that's a tighter dough or a shortbread or a scoopable chocolate chip cookie, like a drop cookie is what we call that, needs to hydrate. Ultimately, the dough needs to hydrate over a certain period of time in order for it to like have a really nice texture, and that's why people call for chilling.
So when you read your recipe, and it says
start to finish,
chill.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And then you've touched so many YouTube videos for the New York Times. What's been your favorite memory of a video?
Oh, that's such a fun question. Well, I mean, personally, filming like with my family was really fun during the pandemic. It was obviously a tough time for everyone, but getting the chance to like put Nanny, my grandma, in videos. The first video I ever did was for the $250 cookies, which are in this book. And I like brought her a cookie with a glass of milk, and I thought it was so cute. And I was like filming on my iPhone, and I give it to her, and she looks at it, and she looks back at me, she goes, "Where's the bourbon?" And I was like, okay, cool. So that was really fun. I think some of the like most grueling shoots have been the most rewarding though. Like our first year we did Allison Roman's Thanksgiving video, which was really, really fun. And that we were just like dying laughing the whole time. And then the first video we ever shot in the studio was this gingerbread showdown. If anybody's ever watched that, it had Sola and Ham and Priya and her husband Seth. And we didn't have gas in the studio. We didn't have mixing bowls. We literally had finished construction the day before we shot that video, and it was a nightmare, but it was actually really fun, and they turned out some like amazing stuff.
The next person asked, if you want to put together a holiday cookie box for friends, do you think there's a good number where it's fun and exciting, but you don't fly into a rage because you decided to bake too many?
That's a great question. For me, odd numbers always. Odd is a much more pleasing thing to look at. And that is something that a food stylist taught me when, like, in composing things. So 3, 5, 7. I think that's why we do 7 cookies for Cookie Week. Whichever one you feel like you have the bandwidth for. And always, I feel like, choose a mixture of like texture, shapes, sizes. You would be really surprised at like the amount of putting our heads together for Cookie Week. It's just not as simple as this is the best cookie from every single person that they pitched. There is so much that goes into the composition of all 7 cookies on the table. And a lot of times we have to go back to people and be like, this looks great. Let's make it into a different shape. We need something that's more angular. We have too many circular cookies, too many chocolate cookies, too many soft, chewy cookies. So like a shortbread, a soft, chewy cookie, and then maybe even like a fudge or a candy. I always love making those types of things because they also have really high yield. So you can like really fill out your cookie boxes with those.
The next question was, what was the most technically challenging cookie you made? And do you love or hate that cookie because of the challenge?
That's a good question. Yeah. I would say the brownie cookies were a technically challenging one just for me personally, but they're very easy to make. I don't know why I had it in my head that I like didn't want to use baking soda or baking powder. So I was like really trying to get the like right amount of lift, but still that chewiness and all the textures in the cookie that it has now. So like figuring out those ratios of ingredients was tough. Like I made that cookie probably like 15 to 20 times before it was done. The salted butterscotch chocolate chip cookie though, I tested and made and remade over the course of 4 years.
Would you say one of those are the one you like tested the most?
Maybe the brownie cookie, even though I tested the other one over 4 years, like it was, we needed a break. Yeah. Let's just say. And I would just remake it. Like I was doing it for fun. So I wasn't doing it for work at the time until I pitched it and they were going to have it for the book. So I wasn't making it and remaking it and remaking it over the course of 2 weeks. The brownie cookie, I was doing that though.
Next, how early do you start prep for Cookie Week?
Oh, we send out requests for pitches in May. Yeah, May. By the end of May, hopefully we have the assignments. Cookies are due in June. And then this year we filmed a little bit later, but usually film like in August for that.
Next question. Going off of the technical question, and you talked about being a creative person, you referenced waitress and movie quotes. In getting really deep into curating this book and recipes and those technical aspects, do you think baking and your experience in doing this has changed the way that you think and absorb creative work now?
Oh, that's a really wonderful question. Oh, so deep. Yes, I do. I think also like the process, not only of doing it myself, like developing a recipe is a very isolating experience. And doing it over and over again can be maddening a little bit. But the process of sharing it with people and learning to like kind of abandon ego and ask for help is something that I've really come to appreciate over the last couple of years. Like, as someone who is a perfectionist, as someone who is a control freak, I do have trouble with that sometimes. You can ask my lovely boyfriend. But I think crowdsourcing creativity has been something that's been like one of the more valuable things for me in the process of this. And also in something that I didn't expect was like on this tour, just really meeting so many fantastic people. Like I had a waitress the other night or server the other night rather, who was telling me about her mom's cake recipes and like just hearing about how her mom, passed last year and she makes these cakes to like trying to like recreate the taste memories and the scent memories. And it was so moving. And she like ended up dropping off 2 slices of the cake at the front desk. And like those types of things have been really, really special. It's just like chat with people about what it means for them too, because it means something different for everyone. But at the end of the day, there is such a profundity to like the act of baking and like to a cookie too. Like everybody I think has a cookie in their life that like if they see it or like taste it, it brings them back to a time when they were happy.
You reminded me of something.
Yes.
Had a call with the executive producer of my podcast today. He was on his way from doing a panel for work in New York. He's a content creative guy. Going back to Boston where he lives. And he said, I was telling him we were coming to do this discussion. And he goes, can you ask him a question for me? How come like at the end of a day, I want a cookie? He's like, I'm searching, like I do something. It could be a hard day. It could be something I'm celebrating. He's like, I was just walking around Penn Station and I'm like searching because I wanted a cookie. He's like, but I didn't want a cupcake or I didn't want a muffin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. Did you ask your doctor about that? I really do think it's at the end of a hard day. It's like, yeah, that is something that not only is it one of the first things that a lot of people learn to bake, by the way, it's like also something that, my grandma made a lot because it's like, it makes a lot. You can feed a lot of mouths. And like, I think that we just have such a connection to cookies because it's so much easier to make than a lot of, maybe not easier, but much more ubiquitous than like a cupcake or something like that. Cupcakes are a celebration, whereas cookies are comfort.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why.
Yeah. I mean, every single person in this room probably has a cookie memory, whether it's going somewhere, making it, someone who made one for them, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And last question. Do you have a favorite grocery store cookie?
1000%. Yes. I talk about in the intro Oreos. I love Oreos. I love them in all their forms. Nothing gets me going. Like seeing that first orange-filled Oreo around Halloween. I'm like, yes, let's go. I was like dumpster diving for Chromatica Oreos. But yes, I do love an Oreo. I think Oreos are actually one of those things, I was trying to think about like homemade stuff, honestly. But if I'm being honest, like we had a lot of prepackaged things growing up. And like I would go to my grandma's house for weeks at a time during the summer. And our way of bonding was like us both having Oreos in the afternoon, watching General Hospital when I should not have been watching General Hospital. I was like 6 years old and I would be like, Sonny, no. And eating Oreos, and I would have milk and she would most likely have a glass of Chardonnay or bourbon. Yeah, But yeah, that is like Oreos house down. Oh, this was so fun. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And, I'm so honored that you guys came out.
Find all social media links for myself, Beyond the Plate, and our guests in the episode notes and on beyondtheplatepodcast.com. As always, A big thanks to the whole Beyond the Plate team. And if you have a moment, we'd be grateful for your support by rating, reviewing, and even hitting that subscribe button to the podcast. Don't forget to join us next Wednesday for an episode of Beyond the Drink, our companion podcast of Beyond the Plate, brought to you by our friends at Ford's Gin. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy, and remember, there are never too many cooks in the kitchen.